one game away. Blow up. We're playing for something, man. We're playing for something. Just gotta mean something to you. They gotta mean something. Everything you got. Let's finish this.
Do it, fellas.
Let's go.
Let's do it, fellas.
Finish 2-3. 1, 2, 3. Finish.
Hey, I got some wise words for that Cincinnati mayor. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni. You gotta fight for your right to party! You ready to make history? Come on now. Yeah. You know, there's these two words. And when I say them, people get goosebumps because they know what happens next. So without further ado, free smoke. Look, scared cause I'm drowning in silence with bad thoughts. These days I don't have nothing to say, man, the bag talks. I put in headphones on my driver. Pull up to the spot and give a good dick and Godiva. I can't lie, I'm uninspired. No more pillow talking about nonsense. I only stick around to put some band-aids on my conscience. I don't know why I feel so bad, nigga. That's what we do, no foundation. We don't build no more, we just screw. Half a bottle of Henny, girl, I'm going with the wind. The same niggas say they happy for me, ain't want me to win. So I'm done on my friends. Don't need help popping Coronas and reminiscing. I just call up Big Bro J and say it's time for venting. If I live forever, I hold this hate for some centuries. You don't know how much or how you doing what it meant to me, but motherfuck all that. I don't even offer up the time to make the call back. Stupid Lodo, if they don't get the picture now, man, I crop them out of the photo. I can't relate to my peers. Been doing this shit for years. I'm motivated by fears. I took the wheel and I steer. My sound not dictated by fuck boys in Atlanta. Stay gifted like this album was ghost written by Santa Bars forever, like they decided to throw me under Slammer. Every song's a hit like they picture me underhanders. I could drop a million songs, but they never gon' understand us. Soapbox sermons for niggas never giving chances. Fight our whole lives to get these weak ass advances. Work twice as hard for the shit that they getting handed. And this ain't even nothing we chose, nigga, we branded. Still can't tell why all of these niggas mad at me. I'm trying to get 100 so I can put my team on salary. Give it all to the art, man, I turn my life to a gallery. Man, damn, what a fucked up masterpiece. 1,100 shots and I swear, man, I felt them all. If we ain't even good on our blocks, man, who can we call? Pre-decline state of mind, we broke crabs in the barrel. Got us fighting our folk, man, this shit just a life of peril.
I'm Lamar Jackson. I love the Ravens and I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. Drafted me in the 32nd round, but I repaid you for that. Now, what I'm not gonna allow you to do is try to make me feel guilty or try to guilt me into like Lamar is quitting on the team. Y'all quit on me long time ago. So in other words, if y'all want me to come out there and risk injury, y'all need to make it right. Y'all need to make it right because, as a matter of fact, I just saw what happened on Monday night. So at any given moment, this thing could be over for me. Now, as a matter of fact, I talked to y'all in the offseason.
That's true.
I talked to you in the offseason. Since you wanted to be nasty.
Okay.
Since we going to be nasty, Skip, y'all were nasty.
This is nasty.
I'm going to be really nasty.
Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Saint. I am your host, Saint. Who is Saint? Well, aside from being the host of this here show, I am the future GOAT in sports media, broadcasting, talking sports, all that. Future GOAT at it, bro. I'm just telling you right now. I'm telling you, gonna be seeing me a lot in the future. But listen. I'm not happy. I'm generally happy, but I'm not happy about something that I just saw and I knew it was going to happen, and it happened, and I'm not happy that it happened because it was a slight hope that I hoped it wouldn't happen, but I knew it was going to happen. And that's Eric Bieniemy just signed to become the OC of the Washington Commanders, and the little ignorant ass line that they like to put under it is he will call the plays, even though Andy Reid has said multiple times Eric Bieniemy calls plays. He calls a great portion of plays. He is a huge piece of this offense. This is not me running the show by myself. This ain't even me running 50% of the show. It don't matter how much Andy Reid allude to that, however. People keep saying, man, don't call plays. So he becomes the OC of the Washington Commanders. I'm pretty sure he got a great pay raise. And I'm happy for Eric Bieniemy to still be coaching, but Eric Bieniemy was never not going to be in the NFL as an OC because he's a damn great OC. My problem is with this is And my problem, even though I have a problem with him having to become an OC for another team because of all the things surrounding his time in Kansas City, which I'll get to in a couple. The real problem I have is the fact that he is the OC of the Commanders, an organization that has clearly been run in such a terrible way the last couple years, a owner that's always in controversy, a head coach who I think is, even with his 2 Coach of the Year awards, to me is highly overrated because he did not win those without Cam Newton and those studs on defense. A dysfunctional organization that's got, listen, the Washington Commanders have a good team. I would probably even be happier if Eric Bieniemy was the head coach of this team. Going over to be OC for a head coach that could possibly lose his job within the next year or so is just, to me, a move that he should not have had to make. And let me make this very clear. I'm not putting this on Eric Bieniemy. Clearly, Eric Bieniemy has been put in a situation where he had no other choice but to make this type of decision. And considering he was in a Super Bowl, he didn't have the opportunity to make a lot of different choices as to where he would end up, because a lot of those jobs got filled. I was praying he ended up in Baltimore, even though I pretty much knew that was never going to happen, because why would John Harbaugh hire somebody who would get is far more shine than he would be getting if he were brought in? So why do I have such a problem, aside for those things that I said about him having to come on to the Commanders with the bad, to me, the overrated coach, the bad owner, the bad organization, how they run the team? And I like some of the black men that they have in position who just got on aboard to the team and also had to come into this nonsense. And they got pieces in Washington. I like the running back. I like the receiver. They got a number 1 receiver over everything else. They got a decent the offensive line definitely could use some improvements. My problem is the man had to go from Pat Mahomes to question mark. Tyler Heineke will probably make a start at some point in time this season. I don't even remember where Washington is drafting at the moment, so who knows if they even get one of the quarterbacks. You know, I understand people throwing out, oh, they could trade for Lamar, they could sign Derek Carr, and Derek Carr, let me make this very clear. The only place where Derek Carr, in my opinion, could go and make a difference is right now to Washington, because of my faith in Eric Bieniemy. I do not think Derek Carr could go too many different places right now and actually make a difference. But I don't like that Eric Bieniemy had to basically do what you don't see. And you know, one of the things that really irritate me is how white dudes love to, why you got to bring race into it, and when these type of things never happen to white OCs. You want proof? The last 5 Super Bowls, every single white OC has been hired as a head coach at some point in time. All those teams didn't win. You know what 2 teams did win over that span? Chiefs twice, Bucks once. Bieniemy had to leave his great job to get a new one. Byron Leftwich got fired and is not currently an offensive coordinator for any team. OC for the Eagles just got hired. The OC for the 49ers that year got hired, even though we know he did not call plays. Hell, you got teams who just got to get to the playoffs and make a good run and they'll get hired. The Giants OC was starting to get talk as a head coach candidate. He was under Eric Bieniemy. But Eric Bieniemy came. This is very interesting. And I don't remember the last time I saw a player, somebody of the resume of Eric Bieniemy, without ever giving a chance to prove that he can't be a head coach, already have to make a move like this in his career, where he got to basically say, even though I am a huge part in the success of the Kansas City Chiefs, I now have to go to a startup type of organization. I'm going to have to go to a far worse situation in order to prove myself. And you hear this story so many times with black head coaches, black players, black people, where in order to get to a certain position, you got to do work. And it's in the theme song of the startup song on the show. White work twice as hard for the shit that they get handed. That is literally one of the lyrics in the song. Shout out Stan B. Free Smoke. Work twice as hard for the shit they get handed. Look at what Eric Bieniemy is having to do to get a head coaching opportunity. Look what the white OCs who have not had the success of an Eric Bieniemy have to do to get their head coaching opportunities. And something else that I find very interesting that I thought about earlier today, you know, I done seen so many people go at Greg Roman, rightfully so, finally. But just as many people I seen go at him, I seen those same people, I mean, not those same people, but just as many people defend Greg Roman and basically say Lamar Jackson was more of the problem than Greg Roman. Look at all the great things that Greg Roman's done. And then you look at how they talk about Eric Bieniemy. And it's just a very frustrating thing. How you can praise so many mediocre to bad OCs, give them so many different opportunities, never blame the failure on them at times. But Eric Bieniemy, and like I said before, bro, to have this conversation would be redundant, as sports talk usually is, repetitive, as sports talk usually is, but just silly at this point. Because we see all the dudes who get opportunities who don't call plays, something they continue to hold over Eric Bieniemy. I saw LaShawn McCoy say that he don't like Eric Bieniemy specifically. He don't think Eric Bieniemy good with players. Now, I don't really like that Sean McCoy put out a statement like that. However, that was a statement a while ago, and Sean McCoy is allowed to feel how he feel. And he ain't even required to understand what a statement like that do for somebody like Eric Bieniemy, especially if you had a bad encounter with Eric Bieniemy. Not basic, but the statement he made would make you believe everybody in the locker room have a bad relationship with Eric Bieniemy, which I just refuse to believe, because the Chiefs organization is too great of an organization right now to keep Eric Bieniemy around if he was that bad in the locker room for as long as they did. I don't see Andy Reid coming to the defense like he do of Eric Bieniemy if Eric Bieniemy is a bad guy who don't treat players right. I don't see Pat Mahomes going to the aid and defending Eric Bieniemy the way he do if this is a dude who treat him wrong. You don't have to put on for the cameras, because Carson Wentz's teammates surely didn't. Zach Wilson's teammates didn't. So if these dudes really didn't like Eric Bieniemy, you think they have a problem throwing him under the bus when it's players out here who throw quarterbacks under the bus? So all these different, he had bad interviews. Well, he got this job real quick. So how bad is the interviews? Oh, well, it was an OC job, not a head coach. Oh, that's interesting. I can't remember the last time I saw somebody with the resume that Eric Bieniemy have at any level in professional sports recently be passed up the way Eric Bieniemy has been passed up. For the goalpost to be picked up and carried and moved as much as it is, I don't get it. We just saw Nick Sirianni in the Super Bowl. You know I fuck with Nick Sirianni hard. Half of it since he got hired. He didn't call plays. What evidence was he going to be a good coach that got him hired? Kevin O'Connell over there with Minnesota. What evidence did you? And I also find it very interesting that you say Eric Bieniemy got Pat Mahomes. You never said that for Josh McDaniels. You never said that for Matt Nagy, who did not win a Super Bowl with Mahomes. You didn't say that with none of those former OCs for Greg Roman. I mean, you never said that for those OCs that Andy had before Eric Bieniemy that got hired but never won a Super Bowl with Andy Reid. You never say that about Bill O'Brien when he got hired, when he came from having Tom Brady, and he didn't win a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Tom Brady only didn't win a Super Bowl with one OC in New England, Bill O'Brien. He still got hired. I didn't see people yelling around, oh, he bad with players, when he got into it with Tom Brady in the way and how it came out afterwards, how he treat players. Matt Patricia, he got hired. I didn't hear nobody say, oh, well, he was coaching under Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick called the defense. Patricia don't really. I didn't never see that happening. Mike McDaniels got hired from under Kyle Shanahan. We know he didn't call plays. Nobody calling plays on the Kyle Shanahan team but Kyle Shanahan. He still got hired. So the play calls, the playing with a great player on said team, white OCs get jobs all the time and never have to answer for the talent that they had on their team. Plain and simple. But because Eric Bieniemy got Pat Mahomes, who only done won Super Bowls with Bieniemy and Reed has only won Super Bowls with Bieniemy as his head OC, we killing Bieniemy. That's disappointing. And to me, the NFL should have a problem with this because of how this look. You talk about progress. This is not progress. When you see somebody who done accomplished the things that Eric Bieniemy has, and they continuously try to take this man's accomplishments away and hand them off to other people. That's what I'm saying when I say I don't like disrespectful shit. That's some disrespectful shit. I can't stand it when somebody work as hard as they do. They put in the hours. They put in the grind. They fall in love with the grind to get to where they're trying to get to. And then you just come in and strip away their accomplishments as if you had some hand in it. I can't stand that type of behavior. And that's exactly what's happening to Eric Bieniemy when you forced to leave a Pat Mahomes and go to a questionable situation because they don't even have a quarterback. And I don't think they have a good head coach. So I feel for Eric Bieniemy. And you should too. But I understand the white people out there and even the ignorant black people out there who could never decide to understand a situation like Bieniemy. But I just want to point something out to people. I hear racist people, ignorant people, foolish people all the time say, work hard and you'll always get what you want. If this person didn't do something, it's because they didn't work hard. They didn't put in the effort. Well, tell me what Eric Bieniemy is doing wrong. Because from what I can see, he worked hard. He is prepared. He put in the work. He is passionate about his job. Never heard of no off the field issues or off the sideline issues in his personal life. Carry himself in a professional manner. So you tell me why Eric Bieniemy can't get this job now. And you won't be able to give me none of those traditional things. You'll just be giving me speculate. Maybe he is bad with players. Maybe he do have bad interviews. What do becoming a head coach in the NFL, having that interview, consist of? I'm sitting down. I'm dressed properly. I'm telling you my intentions with your team. What is a bad interview? If I'm not coming in there late, coming in there smelling like weed or alcohol and drunk and tipsy and wearing bad, not in business attire, and that's one thing. I can promise you Eric Bieniemy is not that foolish. So now when they can't really pinpoint as to why he can't get a job because of how flawless his resume is, they get to attack his character. They get to make speculations on his character. Negative ones, of course. And that's just so dirty and disrespectful to Eric Bieniemy, the coach and the man. And because it's a sports thing, it's almost as people don't never realize this. If you go to a job in your everyday life, because I really do hate that I have to constantly break things down in what it feel like stupid terms, because it feel like everyday people, for some reason, like, I'm not saying every fan is like this, because most fans, I would like to believe, understand that athletes are human beings too. Just because they get paid more than us is not, just because they get paid more than the average American, they had to grind and work hard to get where they at too. They had to be good. Like, that you don't just get there because, oh man, you got luck. No. Doctors don't get to where they at because they lucky, but I don't hear people walking around saying doctors don't deserve the money they make. I don't hear people saying dentists don't deserve the outrageous prices they charge. I don't see you telling people who build buildings that they don't deserve what they get. Just because, and not to mention, as integral as you think those other jobs are, because you're going to say, those jobs more important. I done heard multiple stories about how sports save lives. How it saved communities, cities, towns, states. How it brought people together. So for every good thing you can tell me about those other type things that people make a lot of money in, I could say the same thing about these sports. So I'm not trying to hear that. The everyday human who can't understand, they make enough money anyways, they should be satisfied. Bro, grow up. Mature. Understand it ain't about you. That's a selfish way to think. Those men and women worked hard to get to where they at. You don't have to break bones in your body, tear ligaments on a regular basis like they do, and then be required and expected to go out there and still be the same great players. You know how hard it is to be a Steph Curry, a Patrick Mahomes, a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, a Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, a Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, Wayne Gretzky, a Bryce Harper, Mookie Betts, a Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold. Do you know how hard it is to be those type of legendary players? Take Joe Burrow out that list. Do you know how hard it is to be those great players? To be generational players that people feel like they only done seen this once in a lifetime, and every time they see you play, they expect you to be great. You can never have an off night. Every single time they see you, they expect you to be great. Because of the levels you've set for yourself. Even though it's unrealistic for you to can always play at that level, because you played at it, they always expect it now. And because you done played at it so consistently, they never expect you to not play at it. And as soon as they see any cheek in that armor to where you don't play like that, oh, washed. Oh, not Father Time. Do you know how unrealistic a reality that is to live in? Or how unbearable and how tough a reality that is to live in? That's what a lot of these greats, that's what they live in. So save this, oh, they don't get, they just play sports. They get, bro, save that. You don't have that type of pressure and expectation on you in your everyday life. We expect doctors to be great, but they don't even have that type of pressure at times that some of these athletes have to wear on them. I don't see people, a doctor failed a surgery. I don't see people tweeting them multiple times, sending them billions upon billions of tweets on a yearly basis, going at them. You don't get that in your everyday life. So back to the Bieniemy thing. I understand. I'm pretty sure he got a great pay raise and all those different type of things. So I'm not trying to hear, oh, well, he still made good money. I don't want to hear that argument. Like I said, bro, in your everyday life, when you're rising up in the ranks, you don't expect to, if you constantly better at your job than somebody else, you pissed if you got to take backwards movements when you know you better than other people that's doing your job. And the only reason other people getting your job is because of maybe favoritism or racial things, or because they know somebody. That's what's happening to Eric Bieniemy right now. And you don't have a problem with that. But if it was happening to you in your everyday life, you would. If it was happening to somebody you loved, you would. See, that's why I feel like I am as logical as I am. And maybe sometimes I'm illogical. But I try to place myself in every single one of these situations and actually place myself in a situation. I'm not saying, well, if I was Lamar Jackson, but still thinking like I'm Jay, broke motherfucker. I'm actually putting myself in Lamar Jackson and saying, if I'm as great as Lamar Jackson, why would I settle for 133 million fucking guaranteed dollars when I know I can demand far more than that? I'm better than the dudes making the more money than me. I done gave you a discount. The last 4 years you done had me was a discount. Because you definitely didn't use that money to build around me. But your pockets got fatter. Oh, well, $1 million, that's life-changing money. But it's not Lamar life-changing money, because Lamar Jackson know what Lamar Jackson is. Eric Bieniemy know what Eric Bieniemy is. So for those sitting around saying, oh, well, he still made good money, or at least he ain't working in the NFL, he should be satisfied. Why would I be satisfied when the effort and the hard work and the dedication I done put in to become a head coach is not being rewarded? When I'm seeing other dudes around the NFL become head coaches who have not put in the time I done put in, who have not put in the grind I done put in. And I don't question another man's grind. But when you see somebody that's done, you want to know why NBA players feel like, oh, man, I loved it. Not NBA players, but a lot of fans say, I would love to see Chris Paul win a ring. Because they see the grind he done put in for over the amount of time he done put in, the greatness he done displayed for so long. People is tired of seeing Eric Bieniemy do what he done had to do and now have to make this type of move. You would be irritated if you saw loved ones work as hard as they did and got demoted rather than promoted. But you seeing everybody else in the company get raises and get hired at higher positions, and they nowhere near as good at their job as your loved one or you is at their job, at your job. That's what's happening to Eric Bieniemy. And we supposed to just say, oh yeah, that's fine. At least he making money. What? This reality of where in sports, we can be in this ignorant fantasy where things that which we would not want implemented and forced upon us, we do to athletes. You would never think that's okay in our everyday lives, but hey, you in an everyday life, if a job was holding over one of the employees, you wouldn't say, well, at least you got a job. You would demand that person or the company do right by that employee. We see it every day. But because he work in the NFL and make more money than the average person, oh, at least you got a job. Be happy. It's a sad reality. And I think this is one of them situations that ain't just about the NFL. This speak more to the human being and the NFL. And like I said, the NFL should have a problem with it because I ain't in the NFL and I got a problem with it because this is ugly. And it ain't just because I'm a African American man, but let's be honest. When the last time you seen a white offensive coordinator had the accolades of an Eric Bieniemy in the time that he had him, even with great players under them? How many did you see not get a head coaching job? Not opportunity, get the actual job. You're not going to be able to name too many, if any. Yet. And don't come to me with this. Don't start naming good defensive coordinators because we know that's not the time we in. And if you really want to talk about it, look at how many head coaches got jobs because of Ray Lewis. If Marvin Lewis, bro, it's exceptions in every conversation. Marvin Lewis will always be an exception because Cincinnati was cheap as shit. And they kept Marvin Lewis around for a long time because as long as he could keep that team as a good to average team, they was fine. They didn't want to spend money. They was cool saving the money they had. They won't build a new facility or they just started to or whatever. Like that was a team being stupid cheap, like some team, like the Oakland A's basically. And still drafting great, having good enough people in place to draft great players, but clearly not the head coach that could get you to where you wanted to go to. However, in the defense of Marvin Lewis, you didn't get me the quarterback I wanted, goddamn. He can say that, even though I don't agree with that. Because Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton, I know people gonna shit on. But if you saw what I had to see for those years, he had A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd on the back end. He kind of got Tyler Boyd when he had Tyler Boyd for a minute. But Tyler, it's amazing how much better Tyler. You know what? Listen, bro, I'm not taking nothing away from Andy, bro, because Andy was a great quarterback for a long time. He actually had a great rookie year. Some people thought he should have won that over Cam Newton. For a minute, I thought he should have, but you ain't giving that to him over Ace Boogie. Andy Dalton was a good quarterback. Maybe it was more so the talent that he had around him because he did a lot of that fuck it A.J. Green down there somewhere type of throws. But I got a lot of memories in my head of him picking apart Baltimore in his early years. So I'm not hating on Andy Dalton. I understand he not a Super Bowl type of quarterback, but I truly believe in his younger days, man, because Cincinnati done really had a good offense since I've been watching Cincinnati. I can't remember really a time where Cincinnati's offense was god awful. Like they might have had a year or two where they was going through transition years, but they had Chad Johnson, TJ Houshmandzadeh. I cannot remember they former running backs for the life of me, but they done always had receivers. So Cincinnati, bro, shout out, bro. I be giving a lot of credit to the Pittsburgh Steelers and how they draft receivers because they draft receivers great also. Not to mention they draft receivers late in the draft, like in the late rounds, and nail them. They see something in these picks that nobody like. I don't, not gonna be bringing up Antonio Brown on the show too much, but on any of the shows too much. But Antonio Brown was drafted in what, the 5th round? And they knew that they found some way somehow they knew he could turn into a beast. The Mike Wallace thing, like, bro, the receivers they have now, Plexico Burris, like bro, look at this, the Hines Ward. Like, look at the history of the Steelers, bro. We always talk about the defense, but at some point in time, they started to figure it out when it comes to receivers. Because the Steelers got to be one of the best teams in the NFL at drafting receivers, bro. Gotta be. They even had Juju looking like a good receiver for you. Now, granted, that was because they had AB still in his prime. And that's what happens when you have a number one receiver walking around the field. It's going to give dudes like a Juju, who might be an average to a slightly above average receiver. He going to look like a superstar in an offense with a dude who getting doubled and tripled like an Antonio Brown. But Cincinnati can draft receivers. I know it's going to be some dudes that I'm not thinking of right now, but Chad Johnson, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, that set of receivers right there, most franchises don't draft throughout the history of their franchise. That's crazy. Example, Baltimore. Baltimore has never drafted not one receiver in their franchise's history that's better than none of them receivers I just named. Even Cleveland draft receivers better than Baltimore. I'm just saying. But back to my guy, Eric Bieniemy. I think it's a real shame that he had to go from Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs to this. Because you don't force other. I can't remember the last time I seen a OC that was forced to make a move like this because he just could not get a head coaching job. I already know it ain't no white ones out there because a white OC with the resume of an Eric Bieniemy getting multiple head coaching jobs, even if he failed the first time. And I saw a stat today where it was like Eric Bieniemy done been interviewed for like 17 jobs, 15 of them was filled. I think they said like he got hired, 7 or 8 dudes got hired over him, or like out of the dudes that was hired over him, 3 of them made the playoffs or is still coaches, and the other 8 done been fired. You want to know what's interesting about all 8 of them that was fired? I can promise you none of them got the resume that Eric Bieniemy got. But they all got head coaches over them. The ones who probably got a better resume than him, the ones like a Doug Peterson, he was already a head coach. Even though he was given his first head coaching opportunity after not calling plays for Andy Reid. So it's very interesting how that all works out. I feel for Eric Bieniemy. Happy, obviously, that he's still in the NFL getting paid, but that was never a debate of if that was going to happen. That's why I wish people would stop using that as the caveat. This man been working and grinding to become a head coach. You don't work and grind to become something, and then when you offer far less than what you've worked to become, you're not satisfied with that. Unless you are the type of person who always settle for far less than what you are worth and deserve, then that's a person who always living a life of regret and always angry, pissed off with other people in the world around them. If you that type of person, well, I get it. But if you're not that type of person, this is just, I would say it's stunning, but it's really not at this point. Just very disappointing and frustrating. But shout out to Eric Bieniemy. I hope he do a great job in Washington. You just never know because the quarterbacking position is hella important. And he don't know who the quarterback is right now. He just got to hope they make a good move at the quarterback position and he can go from there. So, once again, shout out to Eric Bieniemy and shout out to you for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint. I appreciate you. Tell somebody you fuck with him. Tell somebody you love them. Like, share, subscribe. You could be anything in the world. Choose to be kind to somebody. Saint out.
I got the moves like hot sauce. Lil' mama taking the top off. I'm laying down getting topped off. After this, she know she getting knocked off. I know she loving the money, so I keep on thumbing and thumbing. She say she horny when she taking shots, so I keep them coming and coming. Now I'm putting dick in her tummy, scoop her up like I'm raking or something. You would think shawty red track, the way that she running and running. You getting dumber and dumber, you out here chasing the bone. After she finished from giving me dome, the Uber is taking her home.